ever since that first design she cut from paper and pasted on her bedroom window, Jia Lu dreamed of being an artist. After the Communist Revolution, Beijing was still a forbidden city of secret gardens, hidden courtyards, high walls, and closed doors. Jia's dreams filled this magical space. Born to a family of artists, Jia Lu spent her childhood years on the film stage and television screen, embracing life and actively participating in school. She journeyed throughout China and Central Asia and studied with masters of Chinese painting. Where she found inspiration, she drank deeply, nourishing her will to succeed and feeding her spirit. She was an outgoing young woman, in love with life, whether in the army or on location. Working as a nurse or as a film projectionist, and later an actress, she always went beyond what was expected, discovering numerous roles in front of the lens before moving behind it into production design, directing, and editing, always exploring a variety of artistic forms. In 1983, she made the fateful journey to the New World, arriving in Toronto, where she pursued her studies first at the Toronto School of Art and then at York University's Master's Program in Visual Arts. She worked as a research assistant and later as an art instructor at Ontario's Lambton College, the Royal Ontario Museum, and the Art Gallery of Ontario. She began to meet with her first successes and was soon exhibiting her Chinese-style work at solo exhibitions throughout North America. In 1990, she returned to Asia and worked as a researcher in Japan for the Tang Dynasty Culture Research Center and the Central Asian Buddhist Art Museum, as well as chief designer and international art consultant for a giant Buddhist-themed amusement park to be built near Japan's international airport. Before the project was cancelled, she had completed what was then the largest Buddhist work of art ever created, an enormous 700 square meter portrayal of heaven that won accolades from Buddhist and artistic circles in Japan and China, and demonstrated Lu's ability to organize large teams of artists. While Jia Lu was in Japan, the fashion designer Pierre Cardin called on her to help China's textile industry mount one of the first shows of Chinese costume for Western audiences. And before she would return to Canada, Jia Lu collaborated with French author Nicole Vidal, Bernardo Bertolucci's first assistant director Gabriele Polverosi, and her longtime creative partner Jeffrey Bonnycastle to write and design an international film version of the award-winning drama about one of China's most loved stories, Ring of Jade. Jia Lu's design work in Japan, and long association with Buddhist organizations, brought her repeatedly to one of the most sacred sites in Chinese art, the important Dunhuang Caves, first discovered by the Western world in the 1920s. In 1995, her travels took her to Europe for the first time, where she visited more than 100 museums, art galleries, and other artists' work. That eye-opening journey offered her the chance to reevaluate her own approach to art and led to an important change in style, a unique personal style that blended Western oil painting techniques with Eastern spiritualism. In seeking inspiration from a wide variety of sources, Jia Lu began to look beyond the canvas. She traveled from east to west, studying all forms of live performance and film, repeatedly attending opera in Paris, New York, and Los Angeles, Broadway productions, and the newest spectaculars of the Las Vegas stage. She studied and compared these new forms of visual expression and performance, and connected them to her own artistic and cultural roots. As a result, her own work became increasingly theatrical and dramatic, and the seeds of her next artistic project germinated, a large-scale musical stage production ultimately titled Transcendance, capturing the same mystery and beauty of Chinese tradition that distinguished her own paintings. For the next decade, it was to become a quest she could not ignore. The first version of this magical production was the direct result of her years of studying Buddhist art. This bewitching imagery would later form the foundation for Transcendance. But first, her success as a painter would dominate her time. In 1997, she moved to America, where her work was exhibited every year as a highlight of the International Art Expo in New York. In 1999, in Paris, the United Nations Cultural Organization UNESCO and the Chinese State Council selected her work to represent China in their China Cultural Week exhibition, attended by hundreds of thousands of visitors, and helping to establish her name internationally. In 2000, she was invited by the United Nations to exhibit her work in a solo exhibition at their headquarters in New York, where again it drew the attention of a growing number of international admirers and collectors. In 2002, the people of Guam were looking for an image that best represented the role of their island territory as the far eastern entry to the United States, and found it in Jia Lu's sculpture called The Goddess of Life, based on her painting Flame, which they erected at their entrance to the international airport. In the 23 years since she left China, Jia Lu has participated in over 200 solo and group exhibitions at art galleries, museums, and cultural organizations. In the course of her career, she has become one of the best-loved and influential realist painters in the United States. She is now poised to release her powerful imagery and sublime beauty on the live stage. When the curtain on Transcendence goes up, Transcendence will be the culmination of several decades of her best work. It will open a door for American audiences on the mystery, elegance, and magic of Eastern tradition, and the next stage in the evolution of this remarkable artist.